and time management expert. And of course, I always talk about self-care because I believe the first step towards being productive is making sure that you are taken care of. If you are not taken care of, I have found that the only thing that you can focus on then is your own personal health. But when you prioritize yourself first, then it makes space for you to show up in all these other areas of your life. And I'm just ending what I've been calling a season of self-care. If you want to find out more about that, you can click on this QR code here or go to this URL here. For the last 4 months almost, I have been doing podcasts exclusively on self-care because the world is a lot right now, and there are a lot of things that we need to be proactive about changing. If you don't take care of yourself, you definitely don't have energy to create the world that you want. And my greatest tip for if there's something on your mind that you want to talk about is to go to 5calls.org. That's the number 5, CALLS.org. They will give you scripts, they will give you phone numbers. 5calls.org. There it is. All you have to do is enter your zip code, click on the issue that is upsetting you. I know I have one right now that has to do with a slush fund that I'm going to be calling about. Go here, call the numbers, they give you the scripts. It's so easy. It takes you 2 minutes. Channel your frustration and your anger to do something productive because people need to know that we are upset. Okay? So, I have been talking at length about self-care because of all these upsetting things happening. It's so important to take care of yourself. You can't let yourself get into the mental hamster wheel of what is going on with the world because that's not going to get us anywhere good. We have to be proactive and lift ourselves up. No one's coming to get us. We have to do this for ourselves. Okay? So, I have been talking about self-care a lot, and today I'm going to talk about maybe the one thing that you are most going to need in order to make those changes, because I talked about a lot of different things and I'm not going to tell you which of those things to implement. I'm just giving you ideas so that you can decide what you want to implement. However, sometimes getting started is the hardest part of all. And so on today's podcast, this does go up as the Harness the Power of Planning podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast. This will be episode, I believe, 157. So you can re-listen to it then. So this will go up as a podcast, but maybe this is where you'll get the one nugget. And then you'll think, okay, now I can start either that skincare practice or that supplement practice or that hydration practice, whatever it is that you picked out for my season of self-care that you were like, I really want to do this thing. Great. I support you in whatever it is that you want to do. But today might be the time when you learn that one thing that you want to learn in order to get really proactive about your self-care practice. Okay. And by the way, if you don't know where to start, I get it. There's a lot. I do have a suggestion. If you don't know where to start with self-care, start with making your bed. There is so much brain science research around it. It literally takes, I've timed it. It takes like 20 seconds to make a bed, assuming you don't have 20 different pillows, okay? Or stuffed animals or whatever. It takes me 20 seconds. So if you don't know where to start, then start there. Start there. Okay, so at the top of my podcast, I always pull something from this little deck of random positiveness, and I pull from the back. It's always a surprise. I don't know what it's going to be. Let's see. Tension is who you think you should be. Relaxation is who you are. Chinese proverb. Tension is who you think you should be. Relaxation is who you are. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about this one. By the way, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you're listening, or hearts or comments or whatever. It helps me to know what content you are reacting to, benefiting from, and it costs you nothing. And if you're listening live, by the way, you can send me messages in the chat. If you have a question, I will answer anything that I think is beneficial to the rest of the audience. So, okay. You know what I do in times like this when I'm not motivated by whatever this card says? I flip it over. There's always a second saying. So let's see. What you are expecting determines whether you will or will not be able to see. The possibilities are all around you. Daniel Arcasto. This is great. Sorry, Daniel Castro. What you are expecting determines whether you will or will not be able to see the possibilities all around you. I definitely believe in this. They I remember hearing about a study where they raised cats in an environment with, I don't remember if it was horizontal lines or vertical lines, but basically they painted one set of lines in this room, and these kittens were raised in this room where they were only exposed to lines that went, let's just say, horizontally. And once the kittens were grown or past a certain point, they released them into a room with stripes that were painted the opposite way, and they found that the cats couldn't see those stripes because their brains hadn't evolved or hadn't acclimated to that different orientation. It's interesting. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but some cultures architecture is very rectilinear, right? Boxes, everything's square and right angles. That is not how all architecture is. That is a very particular type of architecture. And if you think about it, what kind of culture develops a very rectilinear architecture? You could say, oh, it's one that's obsessed with math. Maybe there's lots of curves in math, so maybe not. You could say it's one that's obsessed with profit because it's easier to produce materials that are all uniform so that then building goes faster and is less expensive. I think that might be more the case. Curvilinear architecture requires more craftsmanship. It requires more individual attention. And so there are some cultures where all of the architecture is very curvilinear and has to be made by hand. So what does that say about the culture? So I absolutely agree with Daniel Castro. What you are expecting determines whether you will or will not be able to see the possibilities all around you. If you don't believe that you can heal yourself, learn a new language, accomplish that goal, whether it's buying a home, getting a degree, starting a business, then you'll never see the opportunities. So the first thing you have to do is change your mindset. Absolutely. And I don't talk a lot about mindset. There's so many people who talk a lot about mindset. I would highly encourage you to seek those people out. I like James Doty. He wrote a book called Mind Magic. There's so many people. Martha Beck, lots of mindset books. There's so many people who've done lots of great work on mindset. Please seek them out. I also like the book Decoding Greatness by Ron Friedman. So check those books out. That is not what my focus is. My focus is once you've decided to make a change, that's where I come in with these 4 short read books that I have. They're all workbooks. They take under an hour to do, and they're all designed to give you a real tool that will help you in daily life. So, but I do believe with Daniel Castro that it starts with mindset. So thank you for joining me today. As I mentioned at the top of the show, today's topic is all about how to get started. Yes, because we've just finished 4 months of a season of self-care, which you can click on the QR code here. Oh, that's right in the way. And also you can also click on this URL here in order to go to the same website that has this, where this QR code goes. And this has all of the 16 or so podcasts that I did on self-care, going from skincare, which, as I mentioned many times, touching your face releases the same chemicals as getting a hug. So it's so good for you. I was not a big skincare person a decade ago, or 12 years ago, I should say. But once I started feeling the benefits, how I felt loved and taken care of, you bet that I kept doing it. Does my face look and feel better? Does my skin look and feel better? Yes. My skin used to feel like cracking glass, which is not a good feeling. It was so dry. It was so undernourished. So I talked about that. Then I talked about the things that I do internally in terms of hydration, nutrition, supplementation. Then I talked about movement, and I talked a lot about fascia, which I think everyone should be doing fascia work. And I think in 20 to 30 years, more people will know about fascia, but I'm doing my part to tell you about it because I think it's so fantastic. Then I talked about relationships and creativity and other types of movement as well. So, all these great things. I don't expect you to do all of them, of course not, but I hope you've picked one. I hope you've picked one. And if you've picked one, today I'm going to tell you about how to start doing that thing. And by the way, for those of you who want this in a written format, if you find that helpful, I know that I find that those things helpful. If you go to this QR code here, it will help you to get this information in a written format. You know, we all learn in different ways. And so if this is helpful to you, then yes, I want you to check it out. And I'm going to put the written version here too, so that you can see it. It is subscribepage.com fresh start. Okay. Subscribepage.com fresh start. So that's where you can get this. So step one for starting something new is to pick a start date. I don't want the start date to be months in the future. You want it to be far enough that you don't feel pressured, but short enough that it doesn't feel like, oh, I can put that off. Okay. And the reason why is this: the human brain, it only accounts for 2% of our body weight, but uses 20% of our energy. It is a time suck. This is why when you're learning something new, it's so exhausting. I don't know about you, but I remember when I first started driving, I would come home and I would have to take a nap because I'd be so exhausted from that whole brain activity of looking around and driving and signaling and checking my mirrors, and then the hand-eye foot coordination. It's a lot. It's a lot. But eventually, when you do something enough, it creates a groove in your brain that becomes a habit. Habits are just deep grooves in your brain that you can execute on autopilot, thus saving all that energy. If you think about all that energy you expended becoming good at driving, now it's a habit and you're on autopilot, and it saves you a ton of energy. You don't get tired anymore just because you drove on the freeway. That's what the brain does. It creates these shortcuts by creating a groove in your brain so that it doesn't have to use as much energy. Now, because our brains are programmed to save us energy, why? Because we are feast and famine animals. That's why we put on fat the way we do. You see, there's some animals who have food sources that is continuous, like horses, who don't really put on fat. It's because they're not designed to store up food for when the famine comes. That's why humans put on fat so easily, because we're designed to eat during the good times, which are, summer and fall, so that we can survive when there's less food around, as in winter and spring. So, because we're feast and famine animals, because our brains want to save energy for the coming famine, this is why it can be so hard to do something even when you want to do it. Because your brain is, without your knowledge, making this little calculation. Oh, wow. Okay. Joe wants to start exercising today, and that's going to expend 1,000 calories. And that's a lot of calories to expend when we don't know where our next meal is coming from. Look, I'm not saying it makes sense. It's just, this is the programming of our DNA. And although our world has changed a lot in the last 80 to 100 years, Our DNA, our programming as human animals has not. So even though you might have lots of food in the fridge, your DNA does not know that. So, what you have to do is you have to trick your brain into allowing it to not try and talk you out of doing the thing you want to do. Right? Cuz that's the crazy thing about this is most of us think, "Oh, yeah, I'd love to have a skincare practice, or I'd love to have a movement practice, or I'd like to have a creative expression practice. I'd love to eat better." Because we know we'll feel better. I'd love to, have a better sleep ritual so that I can get a better night's sleep. All of these things we know are good for us, but it's so hard starting. And this is why it's hard starting. Okay, so you have to trick your brain. I always say in my workshops and speeches, life is a game that is played on a playing field that starts here and ends here. So much of life is about figuring out how your brain works and then using that knowledge so that you can make your brain work for you. Okay, so step one, pick a day to start the thing. So if you're going to start, let's say, making your bed, wonderful, wonderful keystone habit, as we say in the habit and productivity formation biz. Keystone habit, making your bed, wonderful thing to do. You're going to say to yourself, okay, I'm going to start making my bed this day. And again, not so far in the future that it seems like you can put it off. Let's say 3 weeks. In 21 days, I'm going to start making my bed. Wonderful. Then I want you to think to yourself, okay, for me, success will be making my bed X number of days per week. Now, I like to say that I like to choose 4 times a week when I'm doing something new. If there's something that I'd like to be doing almost daily, I like to set as a goal 4 days a week. The reason why is that 4 means I'm doing something more often than not. And that's where I have found the most progress and success is when you're doing something more often than not. It just gives you that little bit of an edge. So if you're eating healthy more often than not, if you're sleeping well more often than not, it gets you to that hump where you start to feel better. And then it makes you want to do it even more. Like for me, I can tell you, I literally have made my bed every single day for like 40 years. I for me, making my bed has never been a hard thing because I love how a made bed looks. Like it just makes me feel so zen and calm. And this is something that I noticed as a child, as a preteen. And I think it was because I had the benefit of having some pretty bedding. And the pretty bedding motivated me to make my bed. And when I first started working as an adult, my first paycheck I spent on pretty bedding. So I've never had trouble making my bed. So it is possible to get to the point where you are doing something every single day. This smoothie here, I drink at least 5 days a week, sometimes more. So this is one of my more often than not. I don't have to do it all the time, but I try to do it almost all the time. So I pick 4 days a week. Now, here's the thing. If 4 days a week makes you feel uncomfortable, then say 1 day a week. Fine, 1 day a week. Your first week, you're going to do 1 day a week. And then maybe you set yourself the goal. Okay. And then the next week, I'm going to do 2 days a week with the goal of doing it more often than not in the near future. Okay. There's actually a lot of brain science around this idea of picking the smallest number that you'll actually do. And again, it goes back to tricking our brains because if you pick a number that makes your brain say, "Whoa, Nelly, no way in heck am I letting you expend that much energy, that many calories on this new thing you want to do, you crazy human," then you're not going to do it. So Sometimes you might even, like, let's say you have a movement goal and you're saying, okay, I want to exercise I want to do a 20-minute walk 4 days a week. If your brain just revolts, then you might have to say, okay, I'm going to do a 10-minute walk 3 days a week, or even a 5-minute walk once a week. That's fine. Just find whatever the number is that makes you say to yourself, oh my gosh, this is so ridiculously easy. Of course, I'm going to do it. That's when you start doing the thing. When you can say, this is so ridiculously easy, I'm going to do this. Then your brain's not fighting you. Okay. This is why if you say, a lot of Americans at least have a goal of writing a book. And the number that I often hear thrown out there is write 1,000 words a day, which is a wonderful goal, but scary maybe for people's whose brains are not used to that idea. Your brain's like, ha ha ha, hell no, you're not doing 1,000 words a day. So I have a friend, she's actually going to be joining me on the podcast next week, who's long had a goal of writing. And I said to her, what about one sentence a day? Could you write one sentence a day? So sometimes you might have to get that small with the goal. Okay. So set the goal. And again, try and set it at a number where you're like, oh yeah, that's totally doable. I can totally do that. Okay. The third step is that you're going to create some sort of tracking methodology. So that could be as simple as grabbing a Post-it note, writing 1 through 30 on it, and then giving yourself a check mark for each day that you do it in the next 30 days. You can do this with a calendar. You can do this with something called a habit tracker. If you have one, my planner actually has a built-in habit tracker in it where I mark the things that I say I want to do when I do them. I think a Post-it note is a great thing to do in the beginning. And if you could just write down the days of the month, if you're starting on the first of the month, just write June 1 through 30. By the way, picking a date to start that feels like a fresh start is always a good idea, because brain science has shown that we get excited about these dates that feel symbolic. That's why people get excited around January 1st. New year, new me. It's just something that we get excited about. So picking the beginning of the month, June 1st, picking even the beginning of a week, Monday or Sunday, whatever you consider to be the beginning of the week, picking your birthday or an anniversary. These are all great psychological ideas to help boost you. Okay, so let's say you're on June 1st, you are going to start making your bed. You have a goal of doing it 4 times a week because that seems doable, because you heard me say it only takes 20 seconds. And I can do anything for 20 seconds, 4 days a week. Wonderful. And you've got this Post-it note with the dates June 1st through the 30th written down. Okay, here's the secret sauce. This is the thing, this is the step that is going to move you forward in this new habit that you're trying to establish. Start doing this new activity today. That's right. Do it today. You've told yourself you're not doing it till June 1st. That's great. Today is just practice. You're just, throwing a little extra in, a little something, something. Write the one sentence of your novel. Make that one phone call. Do a minute of stretching. Do a minute of research about that new job that you're thinking about applying for. Just do it now. It's just practice. It doesn't count. So easy. No big deal. Okay. And then I want you to celebrate the fact that you did the thing. Give yourself a high five. This has been shown to actually be motivational. Give yourself a high five. Pat yourself on the back. Do a little victory dance. Give yourself a star, a check marker, a sticker on that Post-it note on the back, turn it over, write today's date. You did the thing. Oh my gosh, I already did it. That is the ultimate little bait and switch that you're pulling on your brain. You're saying, oh my gosh, I can do this thing. It is so easy. But you didn't actually have to start. You still don't have to start until June 1st. But just try and do the thing as many days as you can between now and that fresh start date that you've chosen. You're just kind of giving your brain a little like warm up, a little preview of coming attractions. Because you know what? Here's the thing. You can determine if you're going to achieve that goal you've set for yourself by what you do today. If you continue doing nothing today, when all you're trying to do is like 20 seconds of making a bed or 1 minute of stretching or taking that 1 second and taking that supplement that's been in your drawer for months, but you keep forgetting to take, then probably tomorrow's activity is going to be the same. Your best measure of what you're going to do tomorrow is what you do today. So pick the teeniest, tiniest little bit of action that's going to move you forward. Again, I don't care if it's 1 second, 1 minute. Do it today and then celebrate that win. Okay? And celebrate that win every time you do it. High five yourself. Look in the mirror. High five yourself. Pat yourself on the back. Give yourself a little dopamine hit. That's all what this is doing. When you make something fun, your brain wants to make it a habit faster. Okay, I'm going to say this again for the people in the back. It can take a while to establish a new habit. The brain science is all over the place. The latest I had seen was closer to 3 months. It used to be like, 21 days, 24 days, 30 days. Now it's closer to 3 months. However, the hack that makes it happen faster is when you make it fun for yourself. So high five, do a little dance, text your friend, hey, I did the thing. Draw a little star, sticker, heart, whatever you need to on your planner, on your Post-it note, wherever. Do something fun. Final little pro tip of motivation is if you can think of something that excites you as a reward for doing the thing. So if you say to yourself, I'm going to make my bed 4 days a week for the month of June, and then you do it, and then give yourself the reward. So maybe the reward, if you like pillows, could be, I get to purchase a new pillow somewhere. Or if you are like me and you're a big fan of the Buy Nothing, you get to make an ask on your Buy Nothing group for a new decorative pillow. When I was in a period trying to make movement more of a habit for me, I often made fun socks a reward for myself. So again, that's just another little dopamine hit. I find that my brain, again, life is a game played on this playing field here to here, and you need to learn how your brain works, okay? I find that my brain enjoys celebrating like this. I hope you're watching the video because otherwise you're not going to get to see my sick dance moves. Like this motivates me way more than a physical object. But again, we're all different, so do what works for you. Okay, that's it for today. I'm just going to recap for you all. Number 1, pick a date in the future. Well, first, you got to pick the thing that you want to do. And then you're going to pick a date in the future, not too far that you can put it off forever, not too close that it makes you anxious. Okay. You're going to pick a goal for how often you're going to do this thing. I like 4 days a week, but if that makes you anxious, dial it down until you get to the point where that feels easy to do. You're going to have a way to track it. Post-it note, habit tracker, calendar, whatever. Okay. And then the secret sauce is you're going to start doing the thing today, the teeniest bit. I don't care if it's 1 second. That's all you got to do. And then you're going to celebrate it because the brain science shows that by releasing a little bit of dopamine, your brain wants you to do the thing more, and that helps establish it as a habit. And by doing it before your fresh start date, it just takes the pressure off your brain. Again, just makes it that much easier. There's that much less friction from your brain saying, I don't know, I don't want to do that thing. You're just going to sneak it in. Okay. And if you are motivated by rewards, then set up a reward for yourself. It's as easy as that. It's as hard as that. But trust me, when you start doing the things that you want to do, not only will you accomplish your goals, but you will feel better because you will be doing what you said you wanted to do. And there's just something really satisfying about that. I believe that's what integrity means, is when you do what you say you want to do. Thank you for joining me. As always, like, subscribe wherever you listen. This will go up as the Harness the Power of Planning podcast later on today, episode 157. Check it out. If you want to get more about a fresh start, click on this QR code or go to this URL, subscribepage.com/fresh start, all one word. And before I go, I do want to say one last thing. I am speaking at a wellness event that is free. It's happening tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday in Lakewood, California. You can click here. I know this is a really, really long URL, but this QR code here to get free tickets. The event is totally free. It's happening all day Friday and Saturday. You'll have speakers like me doing kind of short TED Talk type things. And then there's a lot of activations happening in the space. So it sounds like it's going to be a really fun event. I'm excited to be a part of it. You can get your free tickets here or go to this Eventbrite place here. It's in Lakewood, California. It's free all day tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday. And I am speaking on Saturday at 11 a.m. So hopefully you'll join me there. I'm going to be talking about self-care is healthcare. And I look forward to seeing you there. Take care. Remember, planning makes everything easier.